welcome to Soul Sparks with Saima. Today's guest is our amazing Meghan Walsh, who's an empowered leadership coach, educator, and author whose new book, Rare Birds, invites us to break free from burnout, comparison, and self doubt to rediscover our inner compass. With a background spanning Fortune 500 leadership to shamanic and energy healing practices, Meghan bridges the worlds of strategy and spirit. And tonight, we will talk about daring to live as your true self, embracing your uniqueness, and stepping boldly into your purpose. So, Megan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here.
It's my it's my pleasure to have you here, Megan. So, your book is called Rare Birds, and I'm really eager to know that what inspired this metaphor for people seeking purpose.
Yes, there was a couple of reasons why I chose rare birds. One of them was there seems to be, a lot of people when I meet them, and I was part of this group as well, where we kind of drift through life and, things happen and we fall into careers and we sometimes get stuck where we are and we lose that kind of fulfillment that we once had. And I feel like sometimes we don't feel that there's a different pathway forward, that we kind of get stuck in the golden handcuffs, you could say, where they want something more, but they're not too sure what it is. And being able to kind of break free from those norms can be a rarity. And that's where kind of like the rare birds comes out of, because you're finding your own hidden path. You're going deeper within yourself to find the answers, and you're utilizing your purpose to bring more fulfillment into your life. And one of the other reasons why I chose rare birds, and I talk about this in the book, is that part of my purpose when I was going through my healing journey was to get back into volunteering. Volunteering's always been kind of this weaving theme of helping people. And I actually got into hospice, and the training was amazing, especially around grief and bereavement. And the training facilitator just came back from a session, and it was called Rare Birds. And it was all about how it takes a certain type of person, to work with people that are transitioning and that are dying, and having that ability to have that empathy and compassion to be with these people going through such a difficult transition. That this is how I also see people that are navigating through finding that purpose, is that it takes so much courage, and it takes that deep knowing that this is your path and this is what you're meant for.
Yes, I too feel that, rare birds, like you said, instantly captures the uniqueness and beauty in people searching for their purpose. It suggests that, each of us has something uncommon and extraordinary within us, as you said, and your choice of words really celebrates individuality while, inspiring others to embrace what makes them special. And yes, that's such a vivid and evocative metaphor, rare birds.
Thank you so much. Yes, and that's why I chose the phoenix on the front cover, is because a lot of the challenges that we go through transforms us, and we learn all these different lessons through sometimes very painful experiences, but it can be the catalyst to allow us to kind of like break free and see the clarity within it, and sometimes take a different path forward.
Absolutely. Yes, that's so relatable. Now, can you recall a moment in your own journey when you realized you had to fly differently?
Yes. A couple years ago, I'd always known that I was meant to do something differently, but I didn't have those tools to go within. And that's what kind of started this whole journey of different exercises. And each chapter in the book has a different exercise that you kind of go within, and you learn more about yourself. And for me, the last sort of cliff I had to kind of jump off to really kind of embrace and start this journey was when I went through a restructure of my own work. And I'd been through many restructures, but this one I knew it was time for me to kind of fly, and it was time for me to start my entrepreneurship, because it had been on the side for several years, but I hadn't really fully embraced it. And it was through all these different practices that I knew at that point that I'm not going to take another corporate job. Like, this is where I'm fully going to embrace who I am. It also started when I wrote the book as well and really stepping into that path. But sometimes it's usually through those, it's like kind of going through a breakup with the corporate world of now what's my new identity and having to go through those self limiting beliefs and re realigning myself with where I was meant to go.
I'd say that that's such a powerful realization, Megan. Like the moment when you recognize the need to fly differently speaks to real courage and self awareness at the same time. And I would say that shows a willingness to grow, to break away from old patterns and to embrace a new path even when it's uncertain. And your experience beautifully illustrates that how transformation often begins with that brave decision to change direction.
Exactly. And that's where we can have that growth mindset when these challenges do arise. And one of the things I talk about is when these very painful things that can happen. And I went through my own healing journey a few years back. That was one of the most painful years. But you can get stuck in this victim mentality of like, why me? Why is this happening? Or you can kind of shed those layers of kind of what you need to heal and those wounds within yourself, and you can use it as empowerment and start to shift and allow that to be a catalyst to be like, okay, what is this teaching me? What am I learning more about myself, and what new doors and opportunities can come through from going through these challenges, and how can this build resilience within myself so that I can step into my empowerment instead of having this moment and the situation define me.
Absolutely, yes. Many of us, reach a point where staying in the flock feels safe, but no longer true. Indeed, you have said it true. Now, you distinguish between why and true purpose. So I really want to know from you that how do you explain the difference?
For sure. So both are very important, and your why can help you uncover your purpose. And your why is, you can think of it as if you have a car, your why is kind of that fuel. It's the inspiration, it's the motivation that kind of gets you up out of bed. And starting with your why in the morning can be incredibly important. So mine is to inspire and teach. And that's my why. And that is what kind of keeps me propelling forward. And our purpose is more like the GPS. It's where we're going in the car, and where we want to kind of like move through life is like through our purpose. So for me, it's quite broad in that it's just to help people in different capacities. And I weave that through my life, my career, my daily way of being, of like, how can I be of service to others? And my why supports my purpose. And that's where it's one of the key elements that we can look at to help uncover our purpose, because they are very intertwined and can be linked. But it's great to be able to know what your why is. And I do want to preface just saying that it doesn't have to be big and grand. It can be as big or as small as you want it to be. But it's very much around, what lights you up, if you have certain passions, what gives you happiness and meaning. And our purpose is allowing us to create that meaning within our life.
That's such a thoughtful distinction, Megan. Like seeing why is a guide that leads us toward our true purpose really clarifies the journey of self-discovery. And it highlights, that how reflection and questioning can illuminate the deeper meaning behind our actions, and how understanding our why allows us to connect more fully with what we are truly meant to do. And you have explained that beautifully.
Thank you so much.
Warmly welcome. Now, trusting intuition can really feel tricky in a world that values, logic and data. Truly. So, how do you help people reconnect with the inner compass?
Yeah, there's several exercises that you can do. And one of the things I do talk about is that our intuition comes through our senses. And that's why a lot of people find it difficult to connect in with our intuition, and our inner compass because we're so used to our mind kind of taking over. There's different ways that our intuition can come through. It can come through clairaudience, so that's where you can hear. And a lot of people might think it has to be a different voice and all these things, but it's still the same voice as your mind, but it's usually quieter. It will come from a place of love where your mind's trying to keep you safe. So it kind of comes from a place of fear of keeping you within your comfort zone because stepping out of that can be fearful and they want to make sure that from a survival perspective. So one of the practices that can be very powerful is when we connect with our heart center. And one of the practices that you can do is closing your eyes, becoming very grounded, taking deep breaths, quieting the mind. And one of the ways that we can do that is by focusing and breathing through our heart. And you can even take two fingers and place it on your heart and start breathing through. And then you can ask a question. And this is where we just want to be present on what comes through because you might hear the wisdom as like a softer voice. And the more we're aware of how this comes through, it allows us to be able to hear it more clearly when it comes through. You might be able to see, which is clairvoyant. And a lot of people think only psychics can see. But again, it could be just you in your mind seeing you do something that kind of lights you up and seeing that path. Or it could be clairsentient, which is all about feeling. So that when people talk about, your gut reaction, and it's like you could feel in your gut, you could feel when something's off. That's when we come back into the body, and that's that heart connection can help us feel into what our intuition is telling us. It's kind of like learning a different language through our senses. But the more wisdom you gain and the more action you take towards it, the stronger it becomes. And this allows you just to give, and it's not to disregard the logical side or disregard the data, but it helps you to give you a holistic approach and perspective to challenges. A lot of the things that are challenging us, that are blocking us, is because there's things that we can't see because we can only see what's in this one moment logically. But there are so many other things that, through our lessons and what you're learning and other ways forward and other opportunities, your intuition opens you up to a whole new level. And it allows you to be more intentional with your action, and it allows you to just gain more wisdom about your own journey and about what is happening in that moment.
Yes, and your approach to helping people reconnect with their intuition is truly inspiring, Megan. And the way you honor inner guidance while navigating a world that prioritizes logic shows a deep understanding and sensitivity. And I would say that it's clear that your wisdom and insight provides a gentle and yet, powerful reminder of the strength we all have in ourselves.
And when we truly start to trust that, we can really open up our potential and our growth. So many times you probably have heard when people say, I should have trusted my intuition. I rarely hear people say, oh, I should have trusted my logic. Usually, it's usually that spark, and it comes like almost kind of like sometimes like lightning. And then you have to watch because our mind will be like telling you all the reasons why you can't do it. And like, no, what if this happens? What if this? And then it walks us back from taking that action. And that's when we really start to lean into it. And that's when our courage to trust it, even in very small steps, is when it becomes more powerful and we start to understand how it comes through for us.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense, Megan. Now, you talk about the silver lining method, turning weaknesses into strengths. So, can you share how that works?
Yeah, for sure. So I developed this framework based on my own experiences and also in helping people. But what I realized in life is that our mind is really good at putting things into buckets, into categories. This is good, this is bad, this is a weakness, this is a strength. And when I was working through the corporate world, I kept getting this feedback that you're too emotional. People can read things on your face, and that was you're too sensitive, you're too emotional. Those were things that I kept getting feedback on. So logically, I would try to control them because that's what we tend to do. And those types of methods of trying to control something rarely work because of the amount of energy that you have to exert to do it. And the challenge with that is when I was trying to control my emotions, I would start to lose my voice because I was afraid that, oh, they would hear emotion in my voice. And so I started to lose my ability to, even speak my truth. And I remember one of my managers saying to me, "You were too emotional in that meeting." And I was kind of flabbergasted because I'm like, I didn't even say anything. He's like, well, I could see it in your eyes. And it would just felt so dejected that I'm like, why is this such a weakness? And I finally, when I started to go deeper, I was thinking to myself, hang on, like emotions aren't weaknesses. It's not one or the other. It's actually on a spectrum. And then I started looking at strengths and weaknesses, not as like good or bad, but that they're just on one side of the spectrum or the other. So if everyone says how confidence is, oh, this is a strength, but if you have too much confidence, then you go over into arrogance and that becomes a weakness. So then when you start to see a spectrum of how they come out, you can start shifting them. So I called it like the ACE model because first you obviously have to acknowledge where your weaknesses are because you can't work on something unless you know or acknowledge that it's something that it's a challenge that you have to come through. And then the second part is connecting with it. Because, like I had said, we try to control them, we try to distance ourselves from them. But when we do that, we don't accept all aspects of ourselves. And when we distance ourselves from them, we can't fully work on them. We can't embrace them because we're not allowing them to be a part of us. We're trying to be into this perfectionism. And so we have to first be able to connect with that weakness. And we have to almost give it like that compassion that this weakness got you through different things in life and being able to accept that and connect with that weakness allows us to start seeing different solutions. And then we go into the third one, which is empowerment. And this is where we can start utilizing the other sides of it. So for me, when it came to emotions, I was like, okay, well, what are the positive aspects of emotions? They made me a more inspiring leader when I spoke, because when I spoke with passion, it helped people to connect with my message. When I was a leader of passion when it came to ideas and all these different aspects of connecting with people on a deeper level when you were able to connect through emotion. So I utilized all these aspects and then used my awareness of how my emotions were coming up as kind of like a tool for my awareness. And it allowed me to be a more empowered leader because now I was embracing all the aspects of me and then I was empowering it. And you can also do that when you know all your different strengths as well, is like how can you empower it to overcome these weaknesses that we see.
That's, I mean, such a powerful realization, Megan, like seeing how our minds automatically label things as good or bad, as you said. And then, choosing instead of to connect with our weakness really flips the narrative. And your silver lining method beautifully shows that how embracing those parts of ourselves can turn them into sources of strength and growth. And I feel that it's such an inspiring way to approach personal transformation.
It's sometimes these mind shifts that allow us to kind of open up the doors to opportunities and it allows us to embrace all aspects of ourselves instead of trying to distance ourselves from what we think is only the good and the bad within us.
I agree. That really reframes the way we see ourselves. Yes. Now, comparison is such a thief of joy. So, how do you encourage people to, embrace their uniqueness instead of chasing external expectation?
That's where I have found my intuition to be incredibly powerful in those aspects because when you're able to connect with that inner knowing, it allows you to be so much more resilient. Because trust me, I've made decisions where people are like, what are you crazy? What are you doing? Like, but I knew on my path that this was meant for me, even though it kind of went against norms, even though people were like, really, you could make all this money if you go back into corporate. Like, are you sure? And when we are able to be very grounded within ourselves, it allows us to kind of let go of the expectations of things outside and society and, with our friends and the people pleasing and all these things. Because at the end of the day, only you are living your life. And I've been there where you want to, people please and you want to do everyone else and do everything logically. But what I found was it wasn't fulfilling. So why would I not focus on what I know will light me up? It might not be conventional. It might not be what people expect me to do. But when you start taking those intentional steps, you start also getting confirmations that this is where you're meant to be. And it's those confirmations that really ground you in your conviction of where you're meant to go in life. And that will help you get through the hard times and the challenges.
Yes. And Meghan, your approach to, helping people embrace the uniqueness is truly inspiring. And the way you encourage self-acceptance and celebrate individuality really highlights your wisdom and compassion. And it's a powerful reminder of the joy, that comes from being authentically ourselves. Beautiful, is it?
Thank you so much.
Yes. And I too feel that, that's so freeing, realizing we don't need to be like anyone else to find purpose. We just need to be fully ourselves, right?
Yes, exactly. And, that's when we truly start to shine, is when we start letting go of those pieces that we feel that we need to wear these certain masks, that we need to, you know, look a certain way, talk a certain way. And it was when I truly started to be more authentic, it made me a more authentic leader. And it actually gravitated people towards me because they could feel the authenticity that I was bringing.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. That makes sense. And I truly agree with that. And this conversation, Megan, with you reminds us that being a rare bird isn't about standing out for the sake of it. It's about daring to live authentically, guided by intuition and free from the weight of comparison. So, listeners,
Mhm.
if you're feeling stuck or disconnected, let this be your invitation to trust your compass, embrace your uniqueness, and take flight toward a more purposeful life. Keep sparking, keep soaring, and keep daring to be rare.